All right, let's unpack this. If you want to really understand that massive 100-pound Bernese Mountain Dog that is currently snoring on your living room rug, you kind of have to stop looking at it as just a house pet.
Right, yeah. Because it's not.
It's not. You aren't just looking at a dog. I mean, you are basically looking at a retired, heavy-duty alpine tractor that just, happens to be covered in fur.
That is a very accurate way to put it.
Right. But we bring these majestic creatures into our climate-controlled homes, and we call them giant teddy bears. We put cute little bandanas on them, and we just assume their entire biological purpose is to cuddle on a Sunday afternoon.
Which is, what's fascinating here is that this is a very narrow, incredibly modern way of looking at a deeply historical animal. Like when you view them purely as this soft, aesthetic addition to your hallway,
Yeah.
you completely miss the blueprint of what that dog was actually engineered to do.
Right.
And more importantly, why it behaves the exact way it does in your house today.
And that is exactly what we're getting into today.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. We are unpacking the reality behind the gentle giant stereotype of the Bernese Mountain Dog. We're looking at how this working-class agricultural history in Switzerland still dictates, honestly, absolutely everything about this breed's modern life.
From the way they greet you at the door to their surprising physical vulnerabilities.
Exactly. And even if you don't own a dog or, have no intention of ever getting one, this matters because it's just this incredible masterclass in how form, function, and ancestral history secretly drive the behaviors of the animals living right alongside us.
Yeah, the modern gentleness of the Bernese. The reason it can just peacefully snore in the middle of a chaotic kitchen, it didn't happen by accident. It wasn't just some happy coincidence of nature.
It was engineered?
Highly engineered. To really understand why, you have to travel back to the cold, steep hills around the canton of Bern, Switzerland, mostly in the 1800s.
Okay, so let's visualize that environment for a second. The Swiss Alps are stunning, obviously, but for a 19th century dairy farmer, they are grueling. Oh, absolutely brutal.
You have steep elevations, freezing temperatures, rugged terrain. And moving right through the middle of all this intense agricultural labor is this large tricolored dog, the Berner Sennenhund.
Right.
Now, they weren't specialist dogs, right? Like, they weren't just guarding sheep out in some remote pasture for months on end, like a Great Pyrenees or something.
No, not at all. They were the farmer's multi-tool. You have to remember, a lot of those Swiss dairy farmers and weavers, they couldn't afford a horse.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because horses require massive amounts of feed, they need specialized stabling, and they just aren't always maneuverable on those narrow, rocky mountain paths. So the farmer's solution was the Bernese Mountain Dog.
Wow.
Their primary job was actually draft work, literally pulling small carts loaded with heavy milk jugs or cheese or even woven textiles from the high valley farms down into the market towns.
Okay, so to pull heavy carts down a mountain, you need sheer, massive strength.
Yes.
You need a heavy bone structure, a broad chest, and just incredible muscular power. So it's basically like putting the engine of a heavy-duty tractor inside the body of a luxury family sedan.
That's a great analogy. You need a dog capable of pulling several times its own body weight on wheels.
Yeah.
But, and this is the kicker, they also had to be a general farm presence.
Meaning what, exactly?
Meaning when they weren't hitched to a cart, they were expected to watch over the farmyard, sound the alarm if strangers approached the property, and, crucially, they had to exist peacefully alongside very expensive dairy cattle and the farmer's family.
Okay, so this brings up a huge question for me. I'm trying to wrap my head around the temperament here. Because usually when we think of a high-endurance working dog today, like, say, a Belgian Malinois or a Border Collie, we think of an animal that is just vibrating with manic energy.
Oh, yeah. The classic high-drive dog.
Right. We think of a dog that needs to run 10 miles a day or it's going to systematically dismantle your sofa. But if the Bernese was bred for heavy lifting and endurance, why are they notoriously so calm?
It really comes down to the specific nature of their work in their environment. So think about it. A Border Collie was bred to outrun, outmaneuver, and totally control a massive flock of sheep across huge, open acreage.
So they need that explosive speed.
Exactly. Explosive speed and a very high prey drive. The Bernese, on the other hand, was bred for steady, methodical resistance work. When you are pulling a cart full of liquid milk down a steep, rocky, icy path, explosive energy is the absolute last thing you want.
Oh, man. Because if the dog suddenly sees a squirrel and lunges...
Your entire livelihood just tipped over into a ravine.
Wow. Yeah, that makes total sense.
Precisely. A reactive, high-energy dog attached to a cart is just a financial disaster for a farmer. Furthermore, think about the farmyard itself. Swiss dairy farms were often really cramped spaces.
Right.
You have massive cows, heavy equipment, small children, all in close quarters. A dog that is unpredictable or hyperactive in that specific environment is a massive physical liability.
So earlier I was thinking about their physical build being like that heavy-duty tractor engine in a luxury sedan. But that doesn't quite capture the temperament, does it?
Not quite, no.
It's like installing a massive freight train engine, but strictly programming the onboard computer to only accelerate at a perfectly smooth, predictable crawl. Like the raw power is entirely there, but the software completely limits the volatility.
Yes, that is a much more accurate way to look at it. The physical capability absolutely had to be paired with genuine emotional steadiness. Generations of farmers essentially culled and selected for a dog that combined immense physical power with a grounded, unflappable temperament.
They couldn't afford one without the other.
Exactly. The job strictly required strength and gentleness to coexist.
Which means the breed was basically perfectly designed for 19th century agricultural Switzerland.
Completely optimized for it.
But obviously we aren't living in 19th century Switzerland, so we take this exact same animal with all that built-in power and that deep emotional attachment, and we drop it into a modern suburban household. That transition, that has to create friction.
Oh, it creates a massive amount of friction,
Mm.
specifically around what people call the giant teddy bear myth.
Right, let's talk about that myth, because the stereotype is that they are these huge, lovable, super low-maintenance goofballs. And it's true, they are incredibly affectionate. They bond so deeply with their families, but it seems like people confuse gentle with effortless.
And that is a very dangerous assumption to make, because underneath those soft brown eyes and that fluffy coat is a 100-pound animal. Unaddressed behaviors from a dog that size are dangerous, purely through the laws of physics.
Right.
There doesn't need to be an ounce of malice or aggression for a Bernese to cause a serious injury.
Because scale changes the rules entirely.
Completely.
If a 20-pound terrier jumps on a guest at the front door because they're excited, it's annoying. You brush off your pants. If a 100-pound Bernese does that exact same enthusiastic greeting, they can easily blow out the knee of an older relative. Or knock a child completely backward onto hardtile.
It's just size and momentum.
Mm-hmm.
The very traits that people love about this breed, their enthusiasm for their people, their deep watchfulness, are actually the traits that require the most active management.
How so?
Well, take that watchfulness, for example. On an isolated mountain farm, being alert to strangers approaching the property is exactly what you want.
Sure.
But in a modern suburban neighborhood where the mail carrier, the delivery driver, and the neighbor walking their golden retriever are all passing by your front window every 20 minutes.
Oh, I see. That ancestral watchfulness can tip into chronic anxiety.
Yes, or overprotective barking,
But
because the dog thinks its farm is constantly being invaded by these threats. Without proper guidance, they just don't know the Amazon driver isn't a threat to the flock. And that deep family attachment is another double-edged sword. That bond is wonderful when you're home on the couch, but it can easily spiral into severe separation distress if you don't actively work on independence training.
So what does independence training actually look like for a dog like this? Because we tend to think of these dogs as needing to be attached to our hips at all times.
It means actively teaching the dog that they can exist in a separate space from you without the world ending.
Okay.
It's crate training. It's teaching them to stay on a designated mat while you work in the other room. And it's really about not making a massive emotional event out of leaving the house or coming back.
That makes sense.
Because if their entire ancestral job is to be near their farmer, and you suddenly leave them alone for 8 hours in a dead quiet house, their anxiety spikes. And a panicking 100-pound dog has the jaw strength to literally chew through drywall,
Oh my God.
destroy solid wood door frames trying to find you.
Okay, I want to push back on something here, specifically the good with kids label that is pretty universally attached to this breed.
Sure.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me. People automatically hear gentle giant and assume it's a built-in babysitter. But isn't there a huge risk just in the physics of a dog this size? I have a hard time accepting that they're automatically safe. Like, if they were specifically bred to be steady around nervous livestock, baby calves, and chickens, shouldn't a human toddler be perfectly safe around them? Why would their legendary farm patience suddenly vanish in a modern living room?
Well, it doesn't vanish, but you are equating a calf with a human toddler, and they operate completely differently.
Fair point.
Livestock communicate in predictable animal ways. A toddler shrieks, grabs fur, pulls ears, and moves totally erratically. Furthermore, A calf isn't trying to ride the dog like a pony.
Ah, wow. Yeah, that makes total sense. We expect the dog to just automatically understand human-child behavior.
Exactly. The dog might have the patience of an absolute saint, but their tolerance has a biological limit. Supervision isn't optional with a giant breed. It is mandatory.
Right.
You have to actively teach the child to respect the dog's physical boundaries, and you have to teach the dog how to physically move around a fragile toddler. You really only have a very narrow window during puppyhood to teach these manners before the dog's sheer size makes those mistakes incredibly difficult to manage.
Okay, so managing their size is crucial for behavior in the house, but it has to be equally crucial for their physical development and daily routine. Which brings up the whole exercise question. How do you burn off the energy of a historic draft dog without breaking the modern pet?
It's tricky. You have to abandon the two extremes. Like we said, they are not border collies that need constant frantic activity,
Right.
but they're also not naturally lazy, despite how much they sleep in the hallway.
So what does this all mean for the weekend warrior? Like the person who wants a running buddy and plans to take their Bernese on a high-speed 5-mile jog on asphalt every Saturday morning?
That is honestly one of the worst things you can do for a Bernese, especially when they're young. We have to look at their anatomy. Giant breeds take a very long time to physically mature.
How long are we talking?
Well, their growth plates, the areas of developing cartilage at the ends of their long bones, those do not fully close and solidify until they're between 18 and 24 months old.
Wait, 2 years. So a dog that looks like a massive, full-grown adult at 12 months is actually still structurally a puppy?
Yes. Structurally, they are incredibly vulnerable. Repetitive, high-impact activities like intense jogging on hard pavement or jumping off high surfaces like the back of an SUV that creates microfractures and severe stress on those developing joints.
That sounds awful.
It is. It can lead to early-onset arthritis, hip dysplasia, and elbow issues down the line. They really reward thoughtful, paced growth. You absolutely cannot push them hard just because they look sturdy.
I mean, you wouldn't force a human toddler to run a marathon just because they happen to be really tall for their age.
Exactly.
But if they shouldn't run, how do we mimic that purposeful, steady farm work they were bred for? What is an actionable job for a modern Bernese?
You simulate the cart. You give them slow, heavy work.
Like what?
A great modern job is putting a specialized dog backpack on them during a walk, loaded with just a couple of water bottles. It provides that steady resistance they crave.
Oh, that's clever.
Or teaching them to pull a small wagon with garden supplies around the yard. Alternatively, scent work is fantastic. Having them sniff out hidden treats engages their brain, which actually burns more energy than a fast run anyway. It fulfills their need to be useful without destroying their joints.
And speaking of physical realities, we really cannot ignore the coat. That tricolor alpine double coat is iconic, but it's not just for show, is it? It's a literal thermodynamic system.
It is a survival mechanism for freezing altitudes. They have a harsh, weather-resistant outer layer of guard hairs and a really dense, woolly undercoat that acts as deep insulation.
Right.
Taking care of it is a massive grooming commitment just to prevent painful matting. But the larger issue is geography.
Right, because if you take a thermodynamic system designed for a freezing Swiss winter and you transplant it to a humid summer in Texas or Florida.
It becomes a major heat stroke liability. Dogs don't sweat like we do, right? They cool themselves primarily through panting and releasing heat through their paw pads. If the ambient temperature is hot, that dense undercoat traps their body heat, and they essentially bake from the inside out.
That's terrifying.
They're simply not built for intense activity in warm weather. Owners have to be hypervigilant, keeping them in air conditioning, restricting walks to early mornings or late evenings during the summer. It's non-negotiable.
Which perfectly transitions into the final and perhaps the heaviest part of understanding the Bernese Mountain Dog and their medical realities. The physical weight and the sheer scale of this breed directly impact their lifespan, and anyone getting into this breed has to face that head-on.
It is the unavoidable heartbreak of giant breeds. Their lifespan is significantly shorter than smaller dogs. You are generally looking at a life expectancy of 7 to 10 years, and cancer is a prominent issue within the breed.
It's so short. And beyond cancer, there's a very acute emergency that large, deep-chested breeds are uniquely vulnerable to, right? Bloat or GDV.
Can we break down what physically happens there? Because people hear bloat and they think, eating a heavy meal and feeling full. But in dogs, it's a critical emergency.
Yeah, gastric dilatation volvulus or GDV is entirely different from human bloating. Imagine a hammock holding a water balloon.
Okay.
That is essentially the dog's stomach, suspended by ligaments inside that massive, deep chest cavity. If a Bernese eats a huge meal too quickly and gulps down a lot of air, that balloon fills with gas and expands.
And because the chest cavity is so deep, there is physical room for that expanded stomach to actually swing.
Exactly. If the dog runs around or rolls over right after eating, that heavy, gas-filled stomach acts like a pendulum. Momentum can cause it to physically flip over on itself, twisting the entrance and the exit shut.
Oh, wow.
The gas can't escape, the stomach expands further, and it cuts off blood supply to the major organs. It is fatal without immediate surgical intervention. That's just a mechanical flaw. How do you manage a vulnerability like that?
Through paced feeding and structure. You don't feed them one massive meal a day, you break it into smaller meals. You use slow feeder bowls so they can't gulp their food. And you strictly enforce a resting period after they eat.
So no playing?
No running or roughhousing for at least an hour. You have to let that food digest so the stomach isn't swinging heavily in the chest cavity.
Hearing all this, the orthopedic vulnerabilities, the cancer rates, the constant threat of bloat, the short lifespan, it feels incredibly heavy. Why would someone opt into a situation where heartbreak might come sooner rather than later? Like, why take on that intense medical vigilance?
It's a profound question. But if we connect this to the bigger picture and look at how dedicated owners of this breed operate, the tone isn't about doom. It is purely about preparation. When you are aware of the mechanical and genetic realities of the dog, you aren't living in fear. You are living proactively.
So it's about shifting the mindset from anxiety to responsibility.
Yes. It starts with seeking out responsible breeders who meticulously screen for joint and cancer history. It means establishing a relationship with a veterinarian early and knowing the symptoms of bloat so you don't lose time if it happens.
Right.
It's about maximizing the quality of those years. When you know a dog might only give you 8 or 9 years, you don't take a single one of those days for granted. You give them a full, deeply connected life because you are equipped to handle the reality of their body.
Awareness allows you to make smart choices. It isn't fear, it's respect. And that kind of brings everything full circle.
It really does.
The ultimate identity of the Bernese Mountain Dog is that its legendary gentleness is not the absence of strength. It is immense, raw strength that has been carefully shaped, intentionally controlled, and partnered with humans over generations.
To love this breed properly, you have to respect both halves of that equation. You must respect the sheer physical force they possess, and you must protect their emotional softness from day one. You have to give them structure, you have to protect their joints, and you really have to give them a purpose in your home.
Because if you don't give a historical working dog a role, its unmet needs will just manifest as unmanageable chaos.
Exactly.
They might not be pulling heavy milk carts down an alpine mountain anymore, but that steady working heart is still beating underneath all that fur. They want to be near their people, they want to move with intention, and they want to feel like they genuinely contribute to the household.
Deny them that purpose, and you don't end up with a bad dog. You end up with a powerful, deeply sensitive animal without direction. And that is simply unfair to the dog.
So the next time you walk past a massive Bernese sleeping peacefully in a hallway, you'll know exactly what you're looking at. You are actually looking at a retired alpine cart puller. An animal forged by freezing winters, rugged terrain, and grueling physical labor who just wants a job to do, even if that job is gently watching over a toddler in a modern living room.
It fundamentally changes how you see them. You stop seeing a plush toy, and you start seeing the history operating right beneath the surface.
You absolutely do. And that leaves us with a final, lingering question for you to mull over today. We spent all this time unpacking how one dog's deepest daily habits, their instinct to pull, their need to guard, their specific anxieties were forged by agricultural demands centuries ago. Which makes you wonder, if a dog's daily habits were forged by pulling carts and guarding Swiss farms, what ancient job descriptions might be secretly driving the unexplained bizarre behaviors of the other pets sharing your home today?
Or even the people.
Exactly. What ancestral blueprints are secretly driving the habits of the humans in your life? We are all dragging a little bit of history behind us.
We truly are.
Thank you so much for joining us on this exploration. Keep looking for the hidden history right in front of you.